timer today? Oh, okay.
Hello.
Nancy not only did a great job being timer in a recent meeting, but also fulfilled her things like that. So I figured since I hadn't heard from her when she had her next speech ready, that she'd do a great job of keeping you guys on track with the lights. So remember, you have opportunities to work on your leadership manual as well as working on your communication manuals with these different jobs. Virginia's going to be bold enough to be our Toastmaster the 23rd to get that out of her leadership manual. So we're going to, yeah, 2 weeks from, not 1 week, but 2 weeks from now. Yeah. So, well, I think we've got, Peggy's going to be Jim Squire's evaluator, and George is going to be Rochelle's, and so I could do Alan's, or someone else wants to. We got everyone else kind of multitasking as well, so I think I'll do Alan's. So it's almost time to start. Does everyone feel like they have enough jobs and ready to do them? All right, good enough.
Good afternoon, Toastmasters.
Good afternoon.
I like to close the door because I'm a loudspeaker, and which is a good thing if you're giving a speech and you're in the front of the room and you need to project your voice. But I find myself at work and I'm talking really loud. But that's all right. Unless I'm too loud, so just question me if I am. So let's rise and we'll do the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We have a busy meeting today. There's a few things I just wanted to mention. Today is the second Thursday of the month, and we actually have 5 Thursdays this month. Yeah, so we're busy. Third Thursday speechathon. Do we have the room scheduled for the
We do.
Okay, so sounds good. So we can meet next week here again.
A lot of times, third one is the board one. So if you don't see us here, we should be there. Just the adjacent one.
Sounds good. And then we have a 5th Thursday. In the past, the club used to meet as a group in the evening. Do we want to meet in the evening, or would we rather have a noon meeting? Anybody? Okay, noon or?
If we can get the room.
You all like that idea?
Yep.
All right, we'll make a note that 5th Thursday is a noon meeting here, and if we can get the room, we don't know for sure if we have the room, but we'll check on that. Okay, sounds good. So, for those of us, me mainly, that didn't have enough time, well, there's another opportunity, like Holly said. And also, the Glendive Speech and Drama Club is having a meet this Saturday. Jim did send out an email that had contact information if you're interested in being a judge. I've never actually been to this speech and drama meet, but it sounds very interesting. So if you're interested in being a judge, you can see that email that has the contact information. And also, we are now part of the Fab 5 Club. Jim, would you like to tell us all about that?
People who or clubs who achieve their 5 goals early, particularly around the first of the year, and then by the deadline of the last of June, get called, join this Fab 5 Club because they've achieved 5 goals. Last night, we again were recognized Glendive Noon as having joined that. There are actually 7 clubs who have achieved this in the region right now. So it's just an honor, just a way of giving some recognition for clubs who are very proactive.
Well, good. And is that something we need to, do we get to keep that status, or we have to strive for that every year? Every year? Well, that's good, keeps us going. All right. And then we also have to do 2 votes today. Jim, do you want to do the votes?
Madam Chair, as Secretary, I sent this out. I printed out all of these so that we'd have a paper copy and promptly left the folder on my desk. An addendum was sent to you via email, and the Glendive Toastmasters from Glendive, Montana, District 78. We have a boilerplate document that they just give you the shell. And so when we met last Thursday as an executive committee, we filled in the shell. And the changes that came to you in the email were all indicated in red. The one thing that we noted is this is an open club. There are no restrictions on memberships. The individuals, the various, if there are any honorary memberships, they are a 1 year. We did that because we have in the past provided a 1 year membership for Miss Montana. We indicated that our new member fee is $20. Our club dues are $40 each 6 months. They'll be payable on March 15th and September 15th. So we designated the dates. We do not have a reinstatement charge for lapsed members who come back and rejoin. So that is a $0 entered there. Or a transfer, someone who coming in, we opted for a $0 fee for that. So the club dues in Glendive Noon are $40 per person for each 6 months and payable on 3/15 and 9/15. The last items are the dates that we meet are the 2nd and 4th Thursdays at 12 o'clock noon, Kearney Conference Center and Glendive Medical Center. That's part of our addendum. The executive committee shall meet at least monthly, and other times as may be determined. But we chose a monthly meeting for the executive committee. The officers, any additional officers, we have none. So we indicated that there are no additional officers with no additional duties. We are full year terms on our positions as president, vice presidents, and so on. And the Robert's Rules of Order is the accepted protocol for this club. And I recommend, as does the executive committee, approval of those of that report, of that addendum of standard club options. So that's a motion.
And we'll do 2 separate votes. All in favor to amend?
We need a second.
I need a second. Thank you, Peggy. All in favor to amend our constitution as Jim read? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No? Second vote to approve the vote on continuing our current particulars, Jim read.
Actually, Pete, help me if I'm wrong here. Isn't it adopting the what was resolved at the TI meeting back in August?
There are 2 things. As an individual with a somewhat warped mind for having attended law school for 3 years, let me very briefly point out to you that one thing is the Toastmasters International requires us to take a vote to adopt their amended constitution to continue being a Toastmasters club. So that's kind of a no-brainer. As I pointed out to you in the email, the biggest difference there is the secretary will now read new members' applications before we vote on new members into the club. And then the second one, as Jim gave us the particulars, is we're also asked to go ahead and present and vote on what we do each week throughout the year. The second and fourth Thursdays being our main meetings and everything that Jim covered. So there are those two votes to adopt the amended Constitution of August 2013, to go ahead and approve what we've already approved in terms of, we like meeting at Carney Center and what we're generally doing month by month.
Madam Chair, is that a motion or do you?
I can make that as a motion that we have two votes, one on adopting the amended Constitution and the other on ratifying our current arrangements.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you so much, Pete,
You're
for
welcome.
clarifying that. Of the club constitution bylaws, and that is available there if you want to read that.
What I will do is, since you, I think all have, George, did you ever get one of these new ones?
I don't think so.
I'm sure you get one. There might be one over here next time, but I'll bring in those that I printed out, and then it'll complete this package of, include a copy of our Constitution with this particular addendum as the insert into that Constitution. So I'll try to get
Taken care of. Today we have a couple of speeches, and we also have Pete as our Toastmaster, which he does a wonderful job. At this time, I'd like to welcome Pete as Toastmaster.
Thank you very much. A little bit chaotic. And so we're going to jump right on this meeting, and we'll ask Virginia to come to us the word of the day, in case you are clever enough to work it into your prepared speech or your table topic. And Virginia will serve as our WAC.
Ductile. How many of you know what ductile means? You can be led easily to do something good, or you can be easily swayed to do something wrong. And it's how you speak.
Thank you very much, Virginia. And here I thought we were talking about what birds did to take care of their bathrooms, the tile. So ductile, very good. Okay, Alan Roops is our first speaker. He's been a Toastmaster and has already achieved the level of Advanced Communicator Silver and is working toward his Gold status. Today will be from the Better Speaker series of talks and will address necessary preparation and practice time, and it will grab our attention, be interesting, and the title suits him quite well. Not perfect, proficient. For Alan to go ahead and work on his Gold Communicator Standard Series presentation for us.
No one is a perfect speaker. I mean, obviously, we're here at Toastmasters, what keeps us coming back. As long as you're never satisfied with the speech that you give, you're always going to be striving for that perfection.
Yeah.
One of the main things to do is to go to the venue that you're going to be giving your
My
speech
chair
at,
is-
and
I just-
and if you don't have a projector, make sure that you have a projector there that will allow you to do your PowerPoint presentation. As far as practicing, don't practice words, just practice ideas. And to make it more like you are giving a speech instead of just reading it from a piece of paper. And that'll make your speech a lot more interesting and more personable. And another thing to do is to practice giving the speech out loud and timing your speech. And, to make sure that you're within your time limit if there is a time limit. And finish each session as you give your speech. And if you make a mistake or something that needs to be improved, keep going with your speech and finish it to the end, and then go back and make some changes as to how you're going to be giving your speech. And then it's all right to give a speech, but you want to make it as polished and as proficient as possible. Arrange for an audience that won't necessarily hear your speech, but a practice audience, and have them critique your speech, for some of the positive things that you do, and also some of the things that you maybe need to work on in your speech. And when you're given ideas on what you can improve on, add those in gradually. Don't try to add all of your improvements in at one time. Work on each improvement of the speech individually, and then you'll be able to incorporate all of those improvements more seamlessly. And some extra considerations, naturally, you need to have an introduction. This is the way that the audience can maybe get to know you and maybe have a insight on who you are and some of your accomplishments. And prepare yourself physically. This is probably a no-brainer, but you need to get rest before your speech. Make sure that you don't have a big meal before you come in and give a speech, because you're bound to be kind of bogged down from that. And just practice. Practice speaking goes back into that as well for your physical consideration. And have maybe a mental rehearsal of your speech, and so that you can kind of work it out in your mind and have it become more a part of you internally. So these are some of the things that you might be able to utilize when you're giving your speech. And although we are striving for perfection, just make sure that you're proficient at what you're doing, and the audience will appreciate you for that. Thank you.
Captain, in your quest for gold, thank you for educating our club on how to do the job well.
All right, thank you.
You bet. Thank you very much.
I will help you.
Our next speaker is a personal favorite of mine. And so we're going to make a transition from the fear of speaking to kind of the fear of parenting, as Rochelle comes and talks about the fact that everybody experiences fear at some point in time. It might be flying, it might be heights, it might be crossing bridges, or my granddaughter's favorite, spiders. So fear is natural. It's a part of life. And think for a minute, if you have kids you know a much wider, broader spectrum of fear. Whether the other kids are going to like my kid. Did I teach my kid enough to make it in life with relative ease? And how to handle that first heartbreak, just to name a few. So here to talk about her biggest fear so far that comes with raising a teenager. That specific rite of passage is Rochelle Standish with her speech, Freaking Out.
Good afternoon, fellow Toastmasters. So there I was, sitting in the passenger side seat of my minivan, cruising down the highway. I am pretty sure I've never felt so freaked out in my whole entire life. Why was I freaked out? My 15-year-old niece was sitting in the driver's side seat, and it was our first trek out on the interstate since she had passed driver's ed. Many things passed through my mind that day. Have I left a great enough legacy for my children? Did I teach my children well? Are they going to grow into good adults? Is the passenger side airbag going to deploy properly if we get into a wreck? As holding onto the handle and my armrest, and I'm just thinking all of these things through my mind over and over and over again. Are we going to make it home? I live about 7 miles west of town, so it was the longest 7 miles of my life. And the whole time, my niece was in proper protocol, 10 and 2. She was going the proper speed limit, but I felt like we were going about 95 miles an hour. I'm like, Cheyenne, how fast are you going? She's like, just settle down. I'm going, and she was only going like 67 or something. I'm like, feels like you're going a lot faster than that. And Cheyenne, turn your blinker on, or the car's coming behind you. And I'm constantly looking by, and she's like, should I pass this semi truck? And I'm thinking, maybe we should just slow down. Maybe we should just ride behind this semi truck. And then my logical, more practical parent kicked in, and no, I should let her pass the semi truck. Otherwise, it's going to take us 20 more minutes to get home, and that's 20 more minutes of my life that I'm not going to know if I'm surviving or not. So, as we progress through this journey of her 6 months, because now there's a graduated licensing system, and I have to drive with her for 6 months before she can go and get her real driver's license. And this has been 6 months of a lot of white knuckle driving, and it's tried my patience, and it's really taught me to know my audience and to know my reaction is going to directly, or my actions are going to directly reflect her reactions as a driver. And since I'm the passenger, I want to have good actions because I don't want her reacting suddenly to my overreacting. So it's been a lot of silent drives, but it's on the inside, it's like a tornado. And I'm like, slow down, slow down, slow down, slow down. And on the outside, I'm just trying to sit here thinking, I hope we don't run through that stoplight. It's pretty icy out today. could end pretty disastrously. But so far, she's done very well. While we've been on this journey together, she has said to me, quit stressing out. When you stress out, you stress me out. So I try to think about that when she's driving. Also, it takes me back to when I was a kid, when my dad was teaching me how to drive. And I think, man, my dad must have been going through a crazy hurricane himself, because I know how long it took me to learn how to parallel park. And the most he ever said to me was, Rochelle, I like the wheels on my car. I would appreciate it if you wouldn't run into the curb every time you're backing up. So in answer to that, we actually went to a park, and I learned how to parallel park between 2 trees with nothing on either side, which was perfect. And come to find out, when I took my test, there wasn't even a car behind me anyway, so it was pretty easy, pretty stress-free. But this last 6 months has taught me that not only does my body language affect the way that my niece is driving, but also when I'm talking to her, if I say, Cheyenne, would you just be careful of the person trying to cross the road? It's going to freak her out. She's either going to stomp on the gas, which has happened once or twice, or she's going to stomp on the brake, which is also not very fun. So I really try to work on being calm and keeping a level tone of voice so that she knows I'm just informing her, but she really does need to pay attention to not only cars, traffic signals, pedestrians, animals, school zones. So this thing we call driving is very, very stressful. And after 17 years of doing it on my own, I really have to retrain myself that she's only been doing it for 6 months. So in closing, if and when you have teenagers who are learning how to drive, just remember that your external dialogue is just important as your external reaction to their actions. So keep that in mind when you're driving down the interstate. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I can see that we're ratcheting up the humor level. That certainly would make the start of a solid foundation for a humorous speech, contest. But Jim actually got a chance to roast someone, and that's going to be his speech. In his introduction, he noted, alas, none were present in all of those people, meaning he gave this speech, this huge crowd, and there was not one Toastmaster there to evaluate his speech. And so we get to be the welcoming recipients as he recreates for us his roast of Bill Goldman given last August. So that's what Jim is going to do. He's going to give us his roast. 250 people, not one Toastmaster. Hard to believe, with as much as we like to be involved in speaking events. But let's welcome Jim as he gives us his Bill Goldman roast.
Thank you, Pete. Ladies and gentlemen, as we live our lives, we create an identity. And I'm going to suggest that there are 5 questions that we can ask ourselves to help to answer this question of who are we? So, who are you? This evening, or in that case, it was an evening event. I roasted Bill Goldman. Now, I don't know what Clinton and Elitha Goldman were thinking when they named their son Billy E. Goldman. It was probably the same thing that my folks were thinking when they named me Jimmy Lane Squires. Both of our folks were from Oklahoma. That's the only explanation I offer. I did actually ask my mother one time, I said, why did you name me as you did? And she looked at me and just very frankly said, you were little then. The second question that you can ask to determine your identity is, what do you love to do? What do you love to do? Well, in Bill Goldman's case, the answer to that question is simple. Talk. Now, thankfully, that is actually something that's well received and quite easy to do when Bill is speaking, because where he speaks from is a very reliable source, and if he relates that, and he does relate it very accurately, it's easy to listen to. The third question that I would pose for you is, who do you do what you love to do for? Who do you do it for? Well, there are 2 possible answers in Bill's case. You do it for the Lord is the short answer. The other answer, the long answer, is the one that Bill will give you. The fourth question does relate to the third. What do people want and need? Let me say it this way. When I taught speechcraft over at Watch East, I always taught that there were 3 levels of evaluation. The high gloss evaluation, that's where you absolutely did not hurt anyone's feelings. You basically probably hid what you were trying to say. The second level of evaluation was that of a satin finish, and that's where you were able to hide everything you said with your words and certainly not offend. And the third level, of course, was that of the unvarnished truth. Bill was better at the unvarnished truth than either of the two above. Sometimes his frankness was brutal, but I thank him for his unvarnished truth. Lots of times that was what we needed to hear, not what we wanted to hear, but so it is. Not always popular to speak the truth, even in love. And the fifth question is, have people changed their behavior as a result of what you do and do well? Well, in the audience that I spoke in front of, and at that time, there in Billings in the Shrine Auditorium, I think it was indicative of all of the lives that had been impacted and changed because of their presence, and that yes, they were there because of something that Bill loved to do and had done in a manner that they appreciated. Now, kind of comes down to a person's attitude, whether or not they're teachable, or they resent being told the truth. We know people, both camps. Kind of really comes down to the type of soil that you represent from that parable. Moving on, Bill Goldman and I have a very long history of motorcycles. We actually met in a motorcycle shop. When Ron Mitchell had the motorcycle shop out here in West Glendive, just this side of where the one car wash is out there, it was the beginning of a long relationship. We rode motorcycles a number of places. We made a loop around eastern Montana and western North Dakota one time when the speed limit was 55. Now, one of his brothers and his son and then Bill and I actually didn't break the speed limit that day. It was the most boring trip we've ever taken. Oh my. Some years later, Bill and I and his brother Wayne and our wives and actually my two sons took a trip through Yellowstone National Park. We had trailered motorcycles over to Livingston, met his brother, and then had gone down through the park, spent a night in some nice cabins, took a boat trip across the lake, had just a wonderful time. On our return trip, we stopped at Tower Falls. Well, Bill and his brother were ahead of us, and they pulled in on the west side of the parking lot, well out of harm's way. I came in with the sidecar, and the four of us on the motorcycle in the sidecar, and stopped up above, well beyond where they were, just completely be out of the way. Moments after we had all gone into the cabin or the lodge, the curio shop down there, a tour bus came in, stopped on the slope, and everybody unloaded. The driver climbed off, walked away. Next thing I remember seeing is hearing the screams from within the curio shop. The tour bus had popped out of gear, there was no brake, and was going backwards down the sloped parking lot. First thing it hit was Bill's motorcycle. So there was a bang, there was a bump, and there was a real big crunch. Two Japanese motorcycles went scattering across the yard, the parking lot. At that exact moment, the Yellowstone Park Ranger was approaching and stopped on the bridge, saw this bus hurtling at him, and he flipped on his light. The bus went straight across the highway, and believe me, envision this, a huge tour bus launching off of an asphalt highway over rocks that were as big as pickups. And then imagine the cloud of dust that came out of that 50-year-old vehicle. And imagine the screech of the frame and and steel on those rocks as it finally came to a rest. Well, Bill Gold's brother Wayne found the driver, who was obviously standing there in utter disbelief. And he found out his name. His name was actually Nuts. N-U-T-Z. Only Wayne would find out that kind of a detail. The motorcycle were rideable. One had a broken brake lever. The Suzuki that Bill was on was pretty badly scratched up. It was rideable. The crunch that we heard was Bill's helmet. When he put it on, it was like dragging a old potato sack over his head. It was, the fiberglass was crushed down to just that of an old gunny sack. Ask who you are. I don't expect you to tell motorcycle stories. I expect you to tell them on how to build a relationship with the Lord. Enough material to write a book. Now, I suggest the book be a tome like a book called The Philippian Fragment, which is probably the most hilarious Bible-based book you'll ever read, if you do. But best, and certainly not least, is you made people feel right because they were forgiven. Take care of your dear wife, Shirley. Take care of your dear grandchildren. Let me see.
Peggy, I'm going to give you a minute to go ahead and work on that evaluation before you give table topics to. And our candidates for table topics today are George. Welcome, George. And Nancy and Virginia. Mark's working on a speech to do general evaluation, so we'll let him continue with that. But when you're ready, if you could go ahead and quiz them with impromptu table topics.
We'll see how ductile we are. George, we'll start with you, since it is our first meeting of New Year's resolutions. So I don't know if you're a fan of them, but if you are, do you have any, and what might they be, or if you don't, why not?
Hello, Toastmasters. This is a topic that came up again, or before. Actually, I remember a couple of years ago, I think I asked a similar question. And I remember my response was, I think I'll try to eat healthy. Well, that's probably been a couple of years, and I'm still working on that. And I think it's an important one. I think the most popular one is to lose weight. And I have to be very conscious of my weight. I had a very motivational experience. I had a heart attack, and as you all know, one of the things you have to do is watch your weight. And so I go to cardiac rehab along with Donna's mom. It's kind of a club that in order to go on, you have to have some issue someplace along the line, but it's still a very good group, and we meet 3 times a week and work out. And I also weigh it. And always after Christmas, there's always about 2 or 3 extra pounds. And so I have to spend the next few days trying to work those pounds out. So my New Year's resolution is an ongoing one, a life-changing one, and I think that's the only kind that really makes sense.
Well said. I say It's not what you eat between Christmas and New Year's that counts. It's what you eat between New Year's and Christmas. Well, another thing with resolutions is organizing. So, Donna, I'm going to ask you if you have any organizing tips, either for closets, or paper, or time.
Thank you, Tabletop Master Peggy. Yes, I don't know if they're tips, but I am organized. I like to be organized. I just think it makes my life easier. I have my Toastmasters binder that I have things that we're going to go over at this meeting. I have in the back, I have the officers folder that I put the minutes in. And I'm a note taker. I write all kinds of notes. It just, I don't know, I think it helps me learn. If I'm listening, I'll just jot down what I hear and then I go back and read them later. I just like to kind of go over that kind of stuff. Closets, yes, I'm organized. It helps each time when I scooch Darren's clothes closer to that side because then it gives me more space. Works great for me. But yes, I do. I organize. I have my pants in one section, sweaters in the others, dresses, and I'm color coded in the closet, which is just kind of makes it easier for me. I like to mix and match outfits. It's better than buying a whole new wardrobe. You just kind of get different things when you mix and match them around. In the kitchen, yeah, I think I'm organized. But then there are things that are kind of stashed in odd spots, and it's like, why did I put that there? Well, probably because I just wanted it out of sight, so I shoved it in the closet. So, yeah, my organizing could definitely use some improvement there, but I believe organization is a good way just to help smooth things along, and I encourage you all to become organized. Thank you.
Since I always need tips in this area, I'm going to ask Nancy a very similar question because she's been in charge of purchasing here at the hospital for many, many years. So I know she's got some great tips to share with us too on organizing, whatever way you want to share.
Hello, Toastmasters. This is probably one of the hardest subjects Peggy has given
Really?
me. I have a really hard time to be organized, to tell you the truth. I just strive and strive and strive to do that on a daily basis. Right now, just at home, I'm just trying to organize our house. It has been quite a mess. We recently put my mom in extended care. We have seen a lot of, not hoarding, I would say, but just a lot of junk in the house. So each month I have to actually force myself to take a box out of the house and just take it to the attic just to give it away. This has helped a little bit in the corners. It hasn't quite helped in the whole house. I have tried to wash down walls, and I see cobwebs once in a while, and I heard them dig out the washer and I try to get those down. But as far as organization goes, I've really, really tried really hard every single night to be doing something. I just don't sit there and watch television. I just try to force myself to get up, get moving, put on my sneakers, put on my shoes, turn on the radio, listen to the music, because I always find that music just gets me moving. So then I just do a little something every single night. Even at work, I have to force myself to have a binder at work, just to write down notes of the things that need to be done during the day. It's really difficult, especially in purchasing, when you have 5, 6, 7 people wanting your time all at once. And where do you start? Where do you end? Who do you help first? Who don't you help first? What is more important? This is all things that you have to kind of figure out, just like I have to do at home. Now trying to get the house straightened out. So this is just some of the things that are on the back of my mind all the time. And I know that I was even going to talk with Jim about, he was talking about having a book called Organization. And I was going to ask him, Jim, what was that name of that book again? So you can see I can really not as organized as what a lot of people think that I am.
Peggy?
Yes.
See, may I say something?
Sure you may.
I wanted to say that, I just wanted to say on this, commenting on commenting on this organization. I gotta say, the people that has become mechanics and pursued that kind of trade, studied IT manuals and so on, they learn how to, when you're in one spot, keep your hands full and then move to another. And I learned this, too. And I'm not a licensed mechanic, but I'm familiar with the work. And it's, you can, of course, there are different factors involved to organization. Something should be is your uh, consider the economic side. You've got to work out a budget and you've got to learn how to cut corners. And but I'm like Nancy. I have cobwebs and so on. The first year I lived in my trailer, I had really nice lace, or I have nice lace drapes and stuff. And I washed all the drapes and stuff the first year, and I took my little squeegee mop with bleach water, and then, wiped off all the paneling and did the ceilings, and stuff like that. So, I've done that too. Of course, I'm a retired, rancher or farmer, and so that I have more time than someone, on the 9 to 5. I didn't mean to talk so long, but I wanted to point that out. And of course, being I have a bad knee, I naturally try to do as much in one spot to go to another. So that's inside the trailer. I keep my hand full too. So sometimes I have pain, but that's all I have. So.
We'll need to move on to the next part of our meeting and count that as a table topic, and I hope everyone said at our age, when you're down on the ground, see what else you can do while you're down there. So we're gonna keep moving right along here. Nancy, could we have the times so far?
Yes, Alan was 4 minutes and 36 seconds. Rochelle was 4 minutes and 49 seconds. Jim was 10 minutes and 36 seconds.
Okay, thank you very much.
35 seconds.
Thank you.
Michelle's done.
So it's time for evaluations, and I guess I'll go ahead and ask George if he won't start with Rochelle's evaluation, please. About 2 minutes.
Fellow Toastmasters, especially Michelle. Michelle's speech was on vocal variety. This is one of the speeches in the manual, and I think it's one of my favorites because that's a topic that I think we never have to quit working on. Something about vocal variety, if you're giving a speech and you want to get somebody's attention, you change the volume or you make some noise, usually it's going to help. And I think that you also, in this particular speech, have to work on all of the things that she's learned so far, organization, body of the speech. I like her speech, freaking out. And it has some topics here we're supposed to go on about, does it facilitate vocal variety? And I said, it did, and I think it did. Volume was excellent. The rate of volume, I think everybody could hear very well. And her pitch was very, when she was talking to her daughter, she's hurried up and talked to her and kind of generated that she was excited and had anxiety. And yet when she talked about past experiences with her father, she slowed down. Usually probably wasn't a lot of pauses. Maybe you could have used some more expressiveness, very much so. Express your emotion. You can tell your emotions by how you were talking. Vocal variety enriched your speech. Your organization was very well. Had logical flow of ideas, and of course, these are some things that you've been learning all along. For word usage, injected humor. You're always going to have a little better speech if you can come up with a little secret. Her rate of speech emphasized her experiences and emotions. She had good organization, good hand gesture. Here's always the tough one. What could the speaker do differently to make the speech more effective? I think she had a good example of voice variation when she called out her daughter's name, Shan! You know, and that was a good variation. And I just think maybe you could try to have some more examples in this particular speech because it was emphasizing vocal variation. So let it come up with a few minutes. A very good speech.
Thank you very much, George and Rochelle. I'll do Alan's evaluation now, and I want to begin this little mini speech with something that happened to me in the nursing home in Deer Lodge years ago when I volunteered to do a discussion group, and it was just men only. This fellow said to me, here's a riddle for you. What one-word telegram did the foreman send the owner when he was sent to Kansas City to buy a bull? And he spent every penny that the owner had given him and just had enough to send a one-word telegram. What would be that word? Comfortable. 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 Okay. And that is that's becoming Alan's hallmark as he gets up here behind the lectern, not tied to the lectern, moves around a little bit, but within kind of appropriate boundaries, appearance very appropriate, flexible and friendly in presentation, and managed the interruption in the meeting very well, got our attention back by vocal variety and gestures, and then gave us some stellar tips, such as practice your speech on your kids. And if kids aren't available, other Toastmasters will do as well. So just reminded us of some things that are very helpful as we're trying to polish a speech. Practice, and then also to get a mental rubric if we're trying to speak without notes. Like if I were to give you a speech on the big 5 personality factors, my mental rubric would be canoe, because each one of those letters stands for one of those 5 personality features. For instance, the E at the end is the personality factor of extrovert. So Alan, very well done. Thank you for helping us be a strong club. And now Peggy is going to go ahead and do Jim Squire's evaluation. And would you please, while she's doing this, send your votes down to Virginia for best speaker, best table topic, and best evaluator.
I wish it would have been at the actual retirement party. That would have been fun to be there. And it was, I think only Jim can weave in education into a actual roast. When I read about roasting, you can really exaggerate some of their characteristics. And I don't know if that bus accident was exaggerated or if that was the actual truth.
It was rain.
It was real. But I could visualize the crunch, and the dust. I never thought about that. I would have liked to heard a few more stories when you mentioned that Bill's method of getting the word out was the unvarnished truth. That would have been a great example of a story about Bill, and maybe even a real exaggerated way that an example of how he told the truth, and it kind of maybe hurt a little bit. And also maybe expand on the type of soil. I would have liked to have an example about that too. But your motorcycle stories, that would have been something the parishioners wouldn't know too much about. A little different side of Bill Goldman, their pastor. So I thought that was excellent to share that, and I'm sure he appreciated, because there was nothing cruel, which is one of the things for a roast. It should be funny, but not cruel, and it certainly was. So good job.
Virginia.
So please send your ballots down to Virginia. And while she's working on that, we're going to ask Mark to give us his evaluation of today's meeting.
Well, thank you, Pete. I thought the meeting today was really lively and full of enthusiasm. Everybody looked rested and dressed nice, and you know, in great hopes of starting out the new year. And I thought the speech evaluators were very positive, very upbeat and helpful. And I thought they were really on the ball. And I don't have much more to say, I guess. The time report has been given, I guess, or maybe she's getting ready for that. And I guess that's about all I've. Yep.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you very much. For the occasion, thank you for your very pleasing appearance. Yeah.
Thank you.
Give a man a job and he's fully prepared.
Yeah.
So Virginia, speaking of fully prepared, do you need another moment, or are you about ready to give us our results so we can adjourn in time to get people back to work? I'd be glad to give you a couple of little bits. So is there anyone already knows they want to give a speech next Thursday for Speech-a-thon? Okay, very good. All right, we got takers. Very good, gotcha. Okay, Nancy and Jim.
Yes.
And Peggy.
Well, you say the next Thursday or the Thursday after?
Talking next Thursday for Speech-a-thon. Do you want the Thursday after for your video one? The 23rd?
Well, yes.
Okay.
If unless you're short of speakers for next week, I didn't understand that. Next week will be the third Thursday.
Correct.
Slipping one in.
We have the privilege of doing speech-a-thons. Everyone who has a speech ready may give the one after for your big project if you like.
Or I could switch with you and save mine for the following one if you want next week.
Let's see, a week from now. Seems like the weather's gonna be good. I need to be, I guess next week would be okay. Yeah, because I know I really neglected
Time to be sure as we work on that
which would
speech
be
to get
23rd.
the video one.
2 weeks from
2
now?
weeks. 2
Oh,
weeks,
okay.
yeah.
Fine, yeah.
In the trade link, notice that the Glendive Toastmasters information needs to be updated.
Okay.
I think that's out of, I can't remember if it's out of order. In our circle.
I think Jordan.
Is it,
Put anything with them.
it's probably really old information, because I believe it's like a Monday evening meeting or something.
Oh,
That's
Trade
fine.
winds,
Advertising.
trade winds at midrivers.com.
Is it?
Thank you, I'll get that.
Okay.
I just noticed that the other day.
Okay, thank you. Virginia, we are ready for you and to adjourn very promptly there.
Our guest speaker today was nominated as, trying to make sure I get these right, Rochelle.
All right. Well done.
Best table topic speaker was George.
Oh, yeah.
Best evaluator was George.
All right.
Good job, George. Welcome back. Thank you all for inspiring and encouraging us as we go through the week ahead. We're now adjourned till next week. And remember, a lot of times, if not always, the speech-a-thons are in the boardroom next door.
See, I have a question.
You all are adjourned that need to get back to work. Yes, Mark?
This thing we were gonna vote on, Jim,
We did.
We did.
you already voted?
We did.
Yeah, you were late.
Well, I know. Well, I just want to let everybody know I'm in favor of it.
Thank
Okay.
you.
I
Thank you very
digested
much,
it,
Mike.
yeah, I think it's good.
Yay.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah. Do I have to sign it and turn it in, or?
No, we just, it was